So keep watching us with World War II again.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the third Saturday Reader Series. Nice crowd we have tonight. We got some exciting readers for you. First of all, I would like to thank Scott Landfield and Tsunami Books for making these wonderful literary events possible. And I'd just like to say that the third Saturday Reading Series continues with thanks to Charles Thielman for his wonderful precedence in making this a premier poetry event for the last several years. And for those of you who do not know, Charles and his wife Gail recently moved back to California, so he's no longer hosting the third Saturday Reader Series. And he and Scott have selected a different host for each month, and I thank them for selecting me to host tonight. I've invited three wonderful poets to read for you tonight. First, Kelly Eastland, who is going to give her first formal reading tonight. Joining Kelly will be Joy McDowell, author of Diesel Horse from Utter Chaos Press. And also John LaBruce, a teacher at the Eugene Montessori School and the 2011 Eugene All Ages Poetry Slam champion. So, as you can see, it's going to be an exciting and diverse night. So here's how it'll go. Kelly will read first, and then Joy will follow her. Then we'll take like a 10-minute break for refreshments, wonderful refreshments that people have brought tonight. So thank you all for all of you who did that. It's a nice layout there. And then after the break, we'll come back and John will read for us. I have created a nice little poster for tonight's event. And there's some copies on the table if anybody would like one. Let's see, what else there? Oh, and also each poet's books are on the table back here, so please support them if you can. Without any further ado, let me tell you a little bit about Kelly Eastland. I first met Kelly last year at the Northwest Poets Concord in Newport, Oregon, and we both are members of the Lane Literary Guild. And here's Kelly's bio from the poster. Kelly Eastland grew up in Colorado and graduated with a BA in English from Colorado University. And in 2002, she moved to Eugene with her husband and 2 dogs and has been falling in love with the Northwest ever since. Her poems have appeared in 3 anthologies, as well as several online journals, including 4 and 20, Shot Glass Journal, and Poetry Breakfast. Kelly finds inspiration everywhere, particularly in nature, relationships, and spirituality. You can read more of her work, mostly in draft form, on her blog, starsandwillows.com. Please give a warm welcome to Kelly Eastland.
Can you hear me, everybody?
Yeah.
Hi, okay, so yeah, this is my first reading, my first formal reading. I feel a little bit like my training wheels are off. So I'm sorry, I just need to breathe a little bit. Thank you, Stephen, thank you very much, and thank you, Scott, and Tsunami Books for this wonderful space here, and to all of you for being here. I want to start with the process of writing a poem, as I'm sure many of you know, is it's somewhat mysterious, and sometimes it's easy. It's rarely easy, actually, but sometimes it's easier than other times. And this first poem I'd like to read is about those other times. It's called The Poem in the Back Seat. She's staring out the window. I keep glancing at the rearview mirror. wondering what she's thinking. I admire her steady gaze, glossy hair. Wait, now it's dull and wild. It's homeless person hair. She grins. At least I think that was a grin. I don't know her, really. She just showed up with an air of expectation. I suggest a route. She doesn't stir. I try another. She nods. I get excited, then hit a dead end. She shrugs. We turn again, double back. Keep rolling, rolling. We're out beyond the edge of town now. She seems uncomfortable. I pull over. We'll wait. I'm at the wheel, but she's the driver. So I was reading the news recently, and I came across a story that I found both horrifying and beautiful. And I think as a poet, when you encounter something like that, you can't not write about it. So I did. And this is called Mercy. This is not a poem about angels, though they gather like dusk around this wrecked planet. It's about boxing and dogfights, forgive us, but also Mozart and penicillin and walking on the moon. This is not a poem about angels, or why they pick and choose, swooping in randomly. It's about the baby who survived being tossed down a garbage chute because the compactor was jammed. This is not a poem about angels, though perhaps they're just like us, capable of heroics and blunders. It's about humans, hungry, beautiful creatures, wearing death like invisible crowns. I feel like this isn't high enough.
You're fine.
Okay, I have a note here that says breathe.
Yeah.
Okay, the next poem was inspired by a dream that I had about a week after President Obama was reelected. And I'm not actually sure if the dream had anything to do with the election, but it could have been I ate pizza that night. So, anyway, this is what it turned into. It's called After the Election 2012. I dreamt of bears last night. They were hanging out, unhurried, sure of themselves. One even sat on a bench like a man, paws on his knees. They were in a courtyard with bushes and trees. A filtered light shone from somewhere, a lamppost or the moon, I couldn't tell, casting shadows drained of color. We watched them through a window, safe in our pajamas, until we saw them so often the novelty wore off. And we returned to our games and cocoa. The bears are still out there, though, still ambling about, swinging their big heads like they own the place, sniffing for blueberries. But mostly, they push over boulders and scratch out grubs, licking them one by one from their long, pitiless claws. We painted the window shut. So most of us, I think, have parts of our bodies that we aren't exactly thrilled about. We all do that, right? We don't like our hair or nose or whatever. But for me, it was always my feet. So that's what inspired this next poem. It's called Servants. For years, I saw my feet as ugly, with an odd array of toes. One fairly normal, 3 long and bony, the smallest stubby and curled, as if counterbalancing its finger-like siblings. Then one day, a shift came, and I saw their stoic grace, these two servants who have carried me to mountaintops over tender grass and burning asphalt, without whom I could not dance. And I bent and asked their forgiveness. I find that regret is actually an excellent catalyst for poetry. And this next poem explores that feeling. Out of reach. She stoops to reach for a coupon at her feet, fat fingers hovering inches from it, flat against the cold floor beside a rusty shopping cart, the bulk of her body rounded under a floral dress. The aisle grows longer, a tunnel of boxes and cans, with her at the end, in her private struggle, as I witness, immobile. Finally, slowly, she straightens, shuffles on, the mute scrap and its promise of savings abandoned. Why do I not run and scoop it up, tap her soft shoulder, and slip it into her hand? The moment closes, the image is sealed snow globe. Now I imagine her standing there again as hundreds of coupons begin to flutter down. So there is a little-known holiday coming up that I wanted to share with you because I think it's something that more people should be aware of. It's called Ordinary Day. In celebration, or perhaps simply recognition, of the average commonplace day, February 27th has been declared Ordinary Day. It shall not be noted on any calendars, nor will there be parties or gifts, or special foods to commemorate it. In fact, it will be like most days, commencing when you awaken in a familiar room. It will likely include a commute of some kind. It will involve regular people, routine tasks. You will be wearing something unremarkable. There will be weather and people commenting on it. There will be breathing, blinking, stretching, and trips to the bathroom. If you're lucky, it will include food and or sex, but we're sorry to say, neither will be very memorable. You may stare out a window at some point, unseeing, thinking of a past or future event. You may feel a tingle of hope or anxiety. If you're fortunate, there will be no bombs, nor earthquakes or floods. No one will die or give birth, or die while giving birth. No one will win an award. The clock will tick, the sun will slide across the sky, money will be exchanged for things, dishes washed, TVs watched. Children and plants will grow silently, unnoticed. Before you know it, Ordinary Day will be over and you'll be back in your bed, if you're lucky, with slippers by the door, your alarm set for the usual time. I struggle a bit with how to introduce this next poem, and I guess it's just because it's self-explanatory, so I'm just going to read it. It's called Conversation by the River. Silence follows us, a shapeless shade without grace, not golden but copper tinged green. Words like flitting birds break through. Inhaling feels like pepper, so I hold my breath. It's come to this. We stand on the sands of said and unsaid, the surface fragile, kisses too few. Love is a haze we stumble through. Okay. This next poem is fairly new, and I think that anybody who's lived here for any length of time, especially over winter, will be able to relate. It's called 10th Oregon Winter. White sheet of day hangs overhead. Brown leaves skitter over empty sidewalks or press their wet bodies into the earth. Listen to the emerald stories of moss, rusty honks of geese. Marvel at mushrooms big as berets. Forecasters call for freezing rain, fog, drizzle, rinse, repeat. 4:30 feels like a bad omen. Light lamps, fires, learn to build your nest. Gather blue strips of sky. Add symphony strings, spines of old books. Notice evergreens, wearing silver beards of lichen. How they shelter and welcome whatever comes. I wrote this falling poem a few years ago, and it was actually one of the first that I wrote after coming out of a really long dry spell with my writing, a long writer's block. So I just wanted to share it. It's called Grass and Wind. They have an agreement, these two. It was settled long ago. Seagrass knows the wind like a sibling, deep green and rooted in sand. It answers harshness with grace, never resisting, only dancing. Wind bends the tapered blades almost to breaking, then lifts them like banners announcing their ecstasy. Grass surrenders, becomes both canvas and instrument, giving shape to the unseen, hushed music to the silence. I feel like I'm going really fast, but I'm really not. Okay. The only thing I want to say about this next poem is that it's a true story, and it's another example of that combination of tragedy and beauty that I mentioned earlier. It's called Reina of Train Song. She weaves flowers into my hair, tiny daisies plucked from the grass, wisteria, forget-me-nots. Stands back, declares, perfect. She is 5, and we've just met. I had considered her name when pregnant decades ago, but had a boy who died. Now this child, blonde hair in a hasty ponytail, pizza sauce on her chin. Barefoot, she navigates broken glass and blackberry thorns. Perennials planted long ago thrive amid heaps of rusted car parts. Flowers sprout from rain gutters. Reina means pure, clean. She doesn't know about the toxic plume underground. She doesn't know her mother is in prison. Her eyes dark and serious, she opens her small hand to show me her treasure, an earthworm writhing. I don't write a lot of love poems because it's just really hard. So it's hard to do well. But that said, I would like to share one with you. It's called No False Compare, and it begins with an epigraph from Shakespeare. And yet, by heaven, I think my love is rare as any she belied with false compare. How often is light dappled truly? In forests, yes, but even then, don't the shoulders of trees feel the strident rays? Is it not more likely to burst into rooms, happily falling over everything? How often is dark like pitch, truly? In deep space, yes, but is it not more often a shade of gray? a dull guest that settles in while light is vacationing on a beach somewhere. My lover's ear is nothing like a shell. Its design is graceful, yes. But is it not more instrument than ornament? A catcher's glove for symphonies, ticking clocks, the swish of blood moving through my heart. How often is love a delirium? For the heart too is apparatus, aorta, auricle, atrium, a muscle. Yet I swear the whole ocean can fit in my chest when I look in your eyes. Two more, and I started with a poem about writing, and this next one explores that topic from a different angle. It's called Anything. I write because the moon wraps itself around my ankles, and only this dance shakes it free. I write to scratch the itch, to stretch the kinks out of my tangled mind. I write because I cannot bottle laughter. I write because it is the raft that carries me over icy rivers and bottomless oceans. It is my passport, my talisman, my map home. I write to learn the thoughts of trees and stones and ghosts. I write because I am bewitched by the clash and swirl of life, by words like corridor and plaster and millennium. I write to enter the secret side door of your heart, to tell you things I cannot tell myself. I write to bear witness. I write for the gypsy carnival girl, the one with striped stockings and a spark in her eyes, who whispers in my ear, anything, anything. Thank you. I'd like to close with a poem that is the title poem of my chapbook that I brought. It's called Illuminated Planet. It's basically a vision for a better world, and I think that's something that's extremely important to have. Dozens of studies have actually shown that people, when large groups of people are meditating on peace, that the violent crime rate actually goes down significantly. And not just one study, lots of studies. So I feel like, imagining world peace, it's not just like a hippie New Age fantasy or something. It actually has real power. So to that end, I offered this. Illuminated Planet. The world glows now, not just sometimes, but all the time, as if lit from within. There are no more strangers. Deep brown to palest white, we stand together beaming. Weapons drop to dust, arms free for embracing. We can't stop laughing. Our hands plant seeds now, cupping the soil like the face of a child. Listen closely, and you can hear the hum, a chorus rising. Thank you.
Callie, brave you were. Bold you did. Kelly Eastland.